See, the consequences of idolatry are severe. Okay, God describes himself as quote-unquote jealous, a word that in Hebrew, kana, can also be translated as zealous. Remember, we talked about this in the first commandment, but remember that this isn't a petty human jealousy, but it's a fierce and protective love. See, he's passionately committed to his people. And so with all this in mind, let's look again at Exodus chapter 20 and back into the second commandment. Let's look at verses 5 and 6 again, which say this: "You shall not bow down to them or serve them," talking about idols, "for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments." Now, this language about generational consequences might sound harsh to us, right? Especially living in the era that we live in now. But it's important to also understand what it's really saying, is that, and to read it in context, okay? So historically, in context, and also considering the original audience, this isn't about God arbitrarily punishing innocent children for their parents' sins. Okay, that's Kim Jong-un, and he's not a god by any definition of that word whatsoever. But rather, this is talking about our choices, especially our spiritual choices. They have ripple effects that can impact those around us, including future generations. I mean, think about it. When parents embrace idolatry, whether it's literal idol worship, which I would argue probably doesn't happen all that much, but maybe it's a modern equivalent, which we'll discuss in a moment, it shapes the environment that their children grow up in. It influences their values. It influences their priorities, their understanding of what's truly important in life. And the effects can indeed be felt for generations. I mean, imagine a father who makes his career an idol. Okay, he might not be bowing down to an actual statue, but his relentless pursuit of success, really at the expense of everything else, well, that's sending a very clear message to his children about what's truly valuable, isn't it? See, those children, they might grow up with a skewed understanding of worth and purpose, potentially passing those distorted values on to their own children. And see, this is how the consequences of idolatry, they can extend to multiple generations. But also notice the contrast here. Okay, so while the negative consequences extend to a few generations, God's steadfast love and blessings extend to thousands of generations for those who love him and keep his commands. See, this is, it's really just beautiful asymmetry. And this asymmetry, it reveals God's heart, his overwhelming desire to extend grace through Jesus, and it far outweighs his judgment. Don't miss that, because it's very beautiful. And this isn't the only place that we see it either, okay? So James 2:13, Ephesians 2:8 through 9, Romans 5:20, Titus 2:11, and John 3:16 through 17. We see this theme being echoed throughout Scripture. In Exodus 34:14, in fact, God declares, "For you shall worship no other God, for the Lord whose name is jealous is a jealous God." And in Deuteronomy 7:9, Moses reminds the people, "Know therefore that the Lord your God is God, the faithful God who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations." At the end of the day, what we need to make sure that we grasp is this: we don't just make idols. Idols make us. And that's either incredibly comforting or terrifying. See, whatever we worship shapes us. If we worship the one true God, we grow to be more like him, loving, just, merciful. But if we worship idols, whether ancient or modern, we become as empty and unfulfilled as those idols are. See, the psalmist understood this very well. In learning about the first commandment, we looked at Psalm 115, verse 8. This week, I want to build on that by looking at the verses that precede it. So in Psalm 115, verses 4 through 8, the psalmist writes about idols, saying this: "Their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths, but do not speak, eyes, but do not hear, noses, but do not smell. They have hands, but do not feel, feet, but do not walk, and they do not make a sound in their throat. Those who make them become like them. So do all who trust in them. I hope you caught that last line. Those who make them become like them. So do all who trust in them. See, this is why idolatry is so dangerous. It's not just that it offends God, though it certainly does. It's that it deforms us. It turns us away from the source of life, and it turns us towards things that can never truly satisfy.